Okay. Got it.
Perfect. Okay.
So we got it. Good.
You see your screen. All right. Welcome, everyone. Happy Notary Public Day. So sorry for the delay this morning. Hope they gave you time to grab your coffee, tea, a soda, whatever your drink of choice is. We're so happy to have you today. And we're so happy to have Lee'Ann Burgess, who is a LinkedIn expert directly with LinkedIn. That's so exciting. So, Lee'Ann, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you.
Yeah, it's great to be back. I was on a training with you guys a few months back, all about Google. So now we've shifted platforms.
Yes, but that's so amazing because everyone loved that. And who missed our Google Business Profile webinar we did with Lee'Ann, you can find it on our YouTube channel. Lee'Ann's going to go ahead and do this presentation. If you have any questions, please drop them into Q&A so we can get them answered throughout the demonstration and at the end as well. Any commentary, you're certainly welcome to drop it in the chat. But I don't want to take up any more time to get started. So, Lee'Ann, I'm turning it right over to you.
Great. So this training is direct from LinkedIn, just to kind of put that out there. I'm one of, well, in last year's cohort, I was one of 30 chosen globally by LinkedIn for their marketing experts program. So we run various trainings throughout the year, all on brand building. This is specifically brand building, leveraging LinkedIn. There's a few others like analytics, and if you're going to be running like LinkedIn ads and stuff like that. So I am going to just to little disclaimer, I'm going to deviate slightly from this because there's some slides that may not be super applicable, but if you're running like big ad campaigns, this might not be, super relevant. So I will skip past that. So if you're wondering why I skipped a slide or two, that's why. Okay. So brand building with LinkedIn. So kicking this right off, which brand inspires you to improve your brand strategy and why? If anybody wants to just kind of pop into the chat, or I don't know if anyone can come off mute on their own. Anybody? I do have an answer for mine, and it's on the next slide.
Let's see, that's a good question. There are so many well-known brands though, right? Apple and Nike and Coca-Cola and all of the jingle. This is a hard one for me. I don't know that I can just use one.
It is a really hard one. So I went through a few and I'm like, this might be more towards personal brand, which is really important, especially in business. So I'll skip ahead. This is just my little intro. This might not come off as like a typical brand because it's not Starbucks or Nike, but Gary Vaynerchuk is a brand, and a very well-known person in the entrepreneurial space. VaynerMedia is his main company, and he has a few, but for me, it inspires me because he is very motivational. I'm an entrepreneur myself. Sometimes when I look for that extra motivation to get going, I listen to his podcast, and I always get some great nuggets of advice in that to keep going. So a brand building rule that I go by is be authentic and just stay consistent. So like when you think about building out like your personal brand, especially on LinkedIn, just be your authentic self. Talk about things that you know and you care about, and being consistent, because then you get to stay top of mind. So anyone after this have any kind of brand they want to bring up that inspires them, or is why you think it's a good example of a good brand? Anybody?
Maybe just not enough coffee this morning. We're
Get some more
working.
coffee. Starbucks.
We're still working on that caffeine fix.
That's okay. Let's keep going. Okay, so maybe a good question is how many of you are active on LinkedIn? Or is anybody active on LinkedIn?
If you want to drop an emoji, I'll let you choose any emoji you want. Throw up that emoji saying if you're on LinkedIn now currently. Even if you don't do a lot on there, do you have a profile there? Okay, we do. We do have some people.
Perfect. Oh, you know what? I just saw Brianna had said Stanley Cup. Absolutely. And what's funny is that right now in London, LinkedIn's headquarters in London, they have the next cohort of certified marketing experts, the program that I went through last November. And they had invited a few legacy experts back to do presentations. And they gave out Stanley Cups to everybody. And it was branded with LinkedIn. So 2 top brands together. It's great. Okay, I love seeing that. LinkedIn is like, I'm a little biased. I don't work for them, but I'm constantly promoting LinkedIn because it's such a great platform, to connect and to build your brand out and build your business. So this training is for you. If you do have an understanding of marketing strategy and you didn't have to recently complete LinkedIn marketing strategy certification, but we're going to go over different types of brand strategy in that.
I just want to throw out here real quickly, if you don't really have a brand yet, this is really good information to get your brand started, right? I mean, that would be the case. Some people on here, they just haven't worked toward that yet. It does take a little bit of time and thought as to what you want to do. So don't think this doesn't apply to you. This is great information for when you do start building your brand.
Mm-hmm. And anytime throughout today, if you have any questions on LinkedIn, it doesn't even have to be about brand. LinkedIn in general, just ask. I'm happy to help. And then even offline, connect with me, and any questions that pop up, just, shoot me a message. I'm always happy to help and talk shop, especially on LinkedIn. So coming out of this workshop, you'll be able to use strategic brand building content that's memorable, relevant, and impactful. Measure the success of your brand building campaign. So those might be some of the slides I might zoom past because we might not be doing brand lift studies right now. But let's continue. So brand building is like constructing a building. So to construct a building, builders survey the site, they plan the construction, build the structure, and check the quality of the building. So while like building a brand, we first need to lay the foundation. So to do that, by understanding brand building and its benefits. So we'll discuss content types that we can leverage to create a successful brand. So in your case too, because I know in the notary world, a lot are solopreneurs. So personal brand is extremely important. So let's continue here. Why should you build your brand? It's a very simple kind of question, I guess. Why is it important to have a good brand? Beyond sales, brand building benefits all aspects of your business. When you spend time and effort to build your brand, you stand a better chance of being the go-to option in your niche. While maximizing response based on cumulative effort. So before we go in, let's talk about some popular brands, which we've already mentioned one actually. Okay. So in the chat, enter the first brand that comes to mind for each of the following. So my laptop needs a fast performing processor. I need to organize customer data, and I need a drink to stay awake. That last one, we all know what that is.
Oh, one said Intel and Starbucks, and I was going for Intel too, so that was my guess for my laptop.
Mm-hmm.
Need to
Speaking
organize customer data.
of
That's a good one. Yeah, cloud. Mhm.
Apple Cloud.
I'm thinking of like some of the like MailChimp or Aweber or those kinds of things.
Mhm. Apple,
That's
Google,
probably a better way.
those are all really good ones.
Dunkin', yep, I'm a Dunkin' girl.
Same, I go between both.
I should just say in general, coffee. I do drink stay awake coffee, wherever that may be.
Okay. So this is a really great example of what we call mental availability. So it is the brand's likelihood to be thought of in buying scenarios. Um, so in LinkedIn, there's a lot of really great insights that you can get through the B2B Institute. So one of their studies, and something they talk about quite often, is the 95-5 rule, which just always sticks with me, especially in business. And what that is that 95% of the time, buyers are out of market. So why it's so important to build out your brand is because you want to be who they think of when they are in market, and that's 5% of the time. So especially in anything business to business, it does take a little bit longer. Those sales cycles typically do take longer, but they might not be buying right now. So that's why you take the time and build up your brand. So mental availability means that your business has a greater share of mind. It's a really great concept, and kind of makes you think a little bit when you are positioning yourself out there. If you're creating content online, just being consistent is important because of this. So um, it's just a good thing to keep top of mind. So building that familiarity helps customers mentally associate your brand with the need that brought them into the market. So there's a reason why we think of Nike and Adidas when it comes to purchasing sneakers. 95% of the time, we're not buying shoes, but we're exposed to their brand. So with greater mental availability, prospects become comfortable with your brand and can recall it when it comes time to purchase. Your marketing can create memories with buyers to build mental availability. So mental availability is an outcome of fame. So famous brands take salience to a whole new level. They're so embedded in people's minds that they're the only conclusion most consumers can jump to. So when, hang on a second. It's a little quote on the fame part here. So fame emerges from the interactions between people and media. So today, with multiple brands lining up to fight for a customer's attention, your brand needs to be on the list of the top few go-to brands. So now reaching a larger audience can help. Oh, Cheryl, I got you. Reaching a larger audience share can help with that by building up your brand's exposure and mental availability. Anyone have any questions or anything? Or you can pop in at any time as well. Anything that comes to mind.
I think no questions yet.
Okay. So brand building can help you overcome challenges that you may be facing. So you might have wished for some of these benefits for your brand at some point. So for example, like being able to pivot or offer your customers more products and services. So strong brands can enjoy category flexibility as they can offer more products and services and pivot when needed. Um, Distinguishing your brand from your competitors this is a big one, like especially for me, because like in the marketing space, there's so many marketing companies. So like, how do you differentiate, right? Um, Stronger brands get a competitive advantage over others in their market, so which protects long-term revenue with high market share. High credibility among customers. Customer loyalty is another major brand benefit. Um, Even if a purchase is inconvenient or the price isn't the most competitive, customers still choose strong brands as they trust the brand and are familiar with it. So you think Starbucks or, you think Dunkin' maybe over just popping into like 7-Eleven, profitable sales. Popular brands enjoy lasting mental availability that carries them through long B2B and B2C sales cycles by connecting them with customers at an emotional level. We all know, like in marketing or in branding, if you can connect on an emotional level, you're more likely to be remembered and recalled when it is time to look for that item or service. So, improve pricing margins. Pricing power is another benefit that strong brands get as they experience less sensitivity to pricing, and they can improve margins over time. And then attracting the best talent. If you are in a spot where you're hiring, having a great brand can attract higher quality workforce. So takeaway, brand building develops stronger, longer lasting brands by improving mental availability. Here's just a few little takeaways. Mental availability helps prospects recall your brand when it's time to purchase. Maximize reach and frequency, as 95% of customers are out of market right now. Use broad targeting to reach not only current, but future buyers. Okay, so creating effective content. This is really important, not just on an ad level, because this does, and the next few slides do go into ads on LinkedIn. I don't know if anybody is running ads or anything right now. Does anyone run ads on LinkedIn or?
I'm going to say we tried to run a couple of ads, and this will be a conversation that you and I have at a later time. We didn't feel like it was the easiest process. It did seem like there were some unique circumstances in it that you really had to think about, and what made sense to put on there. So I don't think that we were as successful as we would like to be. And certainly if anyone is thinking they'd like to run them, we can always do another webinar down the road. But yes, we tried and it wasn't as successful as we would have liked it to have been.
There is a specific training just on LinkedIn ads and just getting started. I will tell you that in the past few months, LinkedIn has rolled out a whole bunch of different new ad formats. So I was at their B2B indie agency event about a week or so ago. And what is really big right now are thought leader ads, which is really meaningful on LinkedIn because now you can actually target a specific niche and audience with like your personal brand. So it always comes back to your personal brand because people buy from people they trust, but just kind of going into the content part, why content is really important. You have that opportunity to talk about what you know, to show your expertise and establish thought leadership in your industry. So it is a very important part of building a brand online. So this will go into some of the the ads, but there are still great takeaways because a lot of times your setup of like an ad with the graphic and content can also mirror that on an organic post as well. So brand equity builds over time with consistent messaging. I know I mentioned before, just like being consistent and authentic is really important. You build longer lasting brands by creating top of funnel content that humanizes your brand and connects with customers at an emotional level. So when they talk about like top of funnel is like your brand awareness, and it's kind of like going through your typical marketing funnel where you have your brand awareness at the top. Middle is the consideration when someone's kind of like considering to maybe use your service. And then the bottom of the funnel will be when they convert into a customer or client for you, or they've made a sale, or so we can mirror this over, and what makes an ad memorable could also be what makes a piece of content memorable. So if you guys can just pop into the chat, what do you feel makes each of these ads stand out? And like, what do you feel makes them memorable or connects on maybe an emotional level?
If you also want to drop in the chat, like which one appeals to you the most, 1, 2, or 3, all the way across. I am drawn to 2.
And like, what stands out about it to you?
So I feel like, and this is probably not the case, maybe it looks not as busy to me necessarily. My eye goes directly to it, so that could be that it's in the middle as well. But I think it kind of gives you, like, the text is easy to read, right? It's sort of to the front. Certainly graphic is a little bit cute, but I have to really stop and look at the other ones to really see what they're trying to say to me. The Starbucks one, it's for old lady eyes. It's a little harder to read. I like that the Salesforce kind of puts out that little bit of leader right away, and then sort of draws you into the rest of it. So that would be for me why I would choose the middle one.
I'm with you on that. I do like the Salesforce. I kind of like their cute little their character they have.
Yeah,
but that's true. And I think having a clear, clear font on there is really a benefit. So also when running ads as well, like that would be something you could easily test and say, hey, let's see how this graphic works versus maybe something that does look a little more busy, and see what plays better. And that helps dictate your future campaigns.
So someone has a question, Lee'Ann, and the question is, what constitutes your brand? Is it just logo and tagline? When you say building your brand, what does that include? That's a great question.
That's a really great question. I'm so glad you asked that question, because I think it does come down to where you hear brand and you think of branding, and you kind of think maybe it's their logo and it's the colors and it's, the font used. It's much more than that. It's the mission of the company, it's the brand voice, it's how they present themselves, it's the emotion it evokes. So brand is like maybe an all-encompassing term to show, it's not just the colors. That's kind of like what you recall when you think of, like, you think of Starbucks, you probably think of green, and their logo, it's memorable and it draws you back in. But brand is like kind of an all-encompassing term that best represents a company, that ties everything in together. It's that emotion, it's the positioning, it is the brand voice, and kind of what you want to be known for. Does that help?
Yeah, but if you need further clarification, certainly feel free to drop a little note in the chat. I'm gonna heart emoji because it made perfect sense to me. And if it made sense to you, I'm gonna make you all emoji too.
That was a really great question though, because even talking with clients and in marketing who say, "Oh, I want to rebrand." What does that mean? You know, so a lot of times what comes to mind is like, I want to change my logo, and maybe I want to change some of like my website and kind of revamp that. But it goes like much deeper. Like, what are you known for? And you know, kind of like the life of the company. I would think, you know, is it purpose driven? Is it, you know, it goes much beyond the logo and the colors used. But I do hear that a lot where it's like, you know, brand refresh and it's like, ah, just change some colors and that. No, no, like let's do a whole overhaul. Maybe you've changed in the last 10 years and your mission is different or your purpose is different. And so that's like what comes to mind for me is all of those things that make up an overall brand. I love that question. Um, so what makes an ad memorable? So here we have on Intel. So these, of course, are the three earlier in the presentation. There were those three questions, like what comes to mind if your computer is slow. And so the data management for customers was Salesforce was their you know, their go-to for that, and then of course Starbucks. So so here Intel demonstrates creativity as it reaches out to the existing and out of market audience with bright colors. Um, yeah, I like that. Reading your chat as going through the ads here. That's interesting. So it didn't catch your attention. Yeah, that's a good point. That's actually a really good point because, you know, with the ads, like you want someone to stop scrolling and look and read your ad, but you want them to remember it too, especially if people are usually out of market. So that's a really great point, and definitely something to keep in mind if you're running any kind of ads or putting content out there. So on the Intel one, they also used a different format. So they have the carousel ad format, which you can do as an organic post as well, which those play really well on LinkedIn. The Salesforce ad branding is on point, uses an interesting brand accent, their mascot, and it's a clear proposition that makes the ad memorable. We hope. um, so a study by the B2B Institute shows that using characters appear to have an 8% difference on average emotional score where branding element is present. Salesforce's B2B branding with its mascot hits on the emotional element that we rarely see in B2B branding. But it's just as important as in B2C because people are still human at work. And then the Starbucks ad is relevant as it targets a specific audience. People are high in emotions during the holiday season, and Starbucks here is effectively linking giving gifts on Christmas and holiday gift collection, which I only know this because I have a 15-year-old daughter who's obsessed with Starbucks. Their holiday menu dropped today. That's all I'm saying.
Lee, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Some of this change or vary depending on who is, or would this be relevant across the board?
Say that again. It sounded like it broke
So
up.
would it vary depending on what, so we talk about, you know, which one appeals to us most? Would those characteristics change depending on who our ideal audience and client is? Or will all of these things be relevant regardless of who we were marketing or, you know, sending our ads out to?
Yeah, that's a great question too. Very great question. So like when you are running ads on LinkedIn and actually any of the platforms, you would break down by like who you are targeting. So let's say you know, on the Intel one, storytelling, you have like a superhero character. Does that appeal more to a younger audience or an older audience, or does that appeal more on depending on like the buyer groups you're targeting, like who your actual customer is. So what you would do in this case, and I will tell you, personalization and in ads and in marketing in general, even if it's an organic post, is really important and relevant, um, because you're talking to that specific audience and addressing a problem that they might have, that they might not know they have, but you're solving with whatever you're offering or selling. So it does actually matter. That's a really smart question, because I think a lot of times people might throw an ad out there and be like, well, here's our service we offer, and just kind of do like a blanket ad. I'm going to target this huge demographic of ages 18 to 65 and up, but like everybody's at a different point in their journey, and what plays and what resonates with someone who's in their mid 20s might not be the same as someone who's in their mid 50s, you know. So you do want to adjust based on who you are targeting. And you can also see that when you do check out like on your analytics and see like who you are reaching and who's actually engaging. LinkedIn also has some really great insights on their ads, like dwell time is a new data point that you can see who's spending time just kind of like looking at the ad, and it'll tell you like, all right, um, people in this age group are spending X amount of time, or whoever you identified in your basically like your ideal customer profile that you're targeting. It'll show you what's more engaging. So then you could go ahead and tweak where you need to, instead of like a set and forget on a blanket ad that's targeting like a huge demographic. So it might, like that middle one on Salesforce might not resonate with someone who's in their 20s and maybe like just starting out in their career, but maybe someone in their 40s, it's great because they're the decision maker, and that does resonate.
I also want to say quickly, it has someone who has learned this is just because you love the ad that you made doesn't mean your audience will like it. There have been times where I've been on the fence about something we've done marketing wise, and I'm like, I'm not sure I love that, but my audience really took to it. So I want everyone to keep that in mind as well, as that sometimes it's not really about your preference, because I'm not my ideal client or my audience, it's theirs. So keep that in mind as you're doing these kind of things too. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but like we just talked about, like I love the middle one, but my clientele might not like that. They might prefer the first or the Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind as you're doing marketing as well.
What are some challenges that you guys have when like you either running ads or putting content out? Are there any challenges you're running into?
When you guys go to post on social media, any platform really, do you struggle to decide what to say or what graphics to use, or what you think do you specifically post for your clientele, or do you just post stuff that you like? I do a little bit of both on my things. But I will say for us, I think sometimes challenging is, what will my audience find valuable, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
what can I say to them that isn't me saying to them, hey, come use my services, right? Which I know we want to say that, right? Hey, I'm available 24/7, or I have all these certifications, or I travel to all of these areas. And that's great. They want to know those things. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's hard to decide outside of that, else can I give them that they will find valuable? Does that sound like something you guys are finding challenging? I see some of the profiles and things out there. So I think that's probably the key things, is just finding value outside of just talking about what we have to offer.
And that's a tough one too, because you do have to kind of do a mix of content that is somewhat self-promoting, but not overly like salesy. So when you can provide value in your content, where it's like you're addressing a challenge that somebody that you would have as a customer would be really beneficial, because you're putting that content that showcases that you're a thought leader in that spot, and that you understand like what challenge they have. They might not need your service today, but they're going to remember and say, well, this person understood that these are certain challenges that I'm facing. So when you can provide that value and content, and address those kind of needs, it definitely helps resonate. And then also just check in on like your analytics too, and just see um, you know what is resonating, what gets more engagement. If you have a premium account on LinkedIn, you can go in and see insights on your posts, so you can see what is doing well, and then create more of that content. Brianna, should we have separate pages for personal business and regular employment if employed but still running a business?
That's a
Yes,
good question.
that is
Great
a good
question.
question. So it's great to have, so you have like a personal page on LinkedIn, and then if you are running a business, have a separate company page just for the business. And then in regular employment. Yeah. So what you would do is you could create content for your business page, and is there any conflict with um having your regular employment and running a business? No conflict. Okay, good. So if you're posting to your business page, best way to get more reach out of that is to share that onto your personal page. So if you created a piece of content, share that over, and that actually helps increase the visibility. And you're also promoting your business at the same time. It is still important though to build out that personal brand. So, just kind of talking about things that things you see. And something that's like I found really interesting is in like thought leadership, things that on the day to day that seem like mundane and kind of like common knowledge might not be. Like I know for a fact you guys know more about the notary industry than I do. So if you're putting out that content, people are consuming it. What might seem like day to day to you is meaningful and valuable to other people. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're putting something together, or maybe not sure what to post. Just kind of be like, all right, top of mind, or this was interesting today, or I came across this customer who had this problem. Maybe other people are. So that definitely helps build that credibility in the space too. Time to create content and when to post, and what to post when you have a limited amount of time towards preparing content. Miranda, so how often do you post now? So there's a few approaches you can take when it comes to content creation. Like I know some people who I work with who will do not often at all. Okay. So this is what I would do. I would do like start a goal for yourself. Maybe if you could do them one post a week, and just say, maybe on a Sunday afternoon you batch out a few posts. So like I work with a few people who will literally spend a few hours on like a Sunday and plan out their content for the next week or two. And so what that means is maybe they'll put together just a few simple posts, create a graphic. You can use Canva, which is a really great resource. I think we talked about that on the last one, but easy resource. Leverage things like AI. You can leverage ChatGPT for prompts. I do that too. Like I'll say, hey, give me a few problems people are facing in X, Y, and Z. And, just kind of getting those prompts to help you put content around that is really helpful. Um, but if you can start like once a week, it's a good starting point. Also curating content. So if you see like an article or something out there that maybe resonates with you, share it and give your insights. So that's another way. Like if somebody posts something in your industry that you want to amplify, you can share, which is also another great way to help build like your network too. Um, but that doesn't have to take too much time. And I know it could become a little bit overwhelming when you're like, I need to work and I need to run a business, but I also need to create content to help get the word out that I'm doing this business or building your brand. So even just a once a week post, if you could just put like a half hour aside and just put something down that would be helpful. Just keep in mind that it should be offering value to somebody.
I also want to add that a lot of the platforms allow you to schedule. So, you don't have to jump on there every single day. Like Lee'Ann said, if you take an hour out on a Sunday, you can plug in, that content and get it scheduled for throughout the week. And know that you can actually just change around a little bit of that content and post it again in a few weeks, right? It's evergreen. So sometimes don't overthink it. Really, if you get a tidbit on someone else's social media, it's okay to take that and make it your own, right? So there's, unless it's, trademarked or copyrighted, so don't steal anything, but you can certainly be like, hey, I saw this great article by, Marcy, and I wanted to share that. And that also is very easy to just, go ahead and repost it to your page. And there you go, you have content.
Yeah. And also, tagging people who might not be in your network that you want to maybe connect with or have like, I have like set up some partnerships, for example, in marketing, which I met on LinkedIn. Like, super quick story. I met an agency that's in London on LinkedIn. Like, we just happened to connect and I had to go there anyway back in January. So while I was there, I'm like, well, let's just meet in person because I'm here. So just like a simple connection became an agency partner for me. And it was just something simple. It's just sharing something out. So you never know where that leads. So if there is somebody that you want to maybe work with, um, maybe share a piece of their content or engage, like Marcy was saying, tag them in it, connect with them. I mean, you can make some really meaningful connections using LinkedIn. Um, so Miranda, content calendars. Yes. So I'll tell you what I use. So I use a mix of things. And it's going to be really like what works best for you. So you can use something as simple as like Airtable or an Excel, sheet. I love Airtable, which is it's free to use. You can also collaborate with other people on it, but it's kind of like an amplified Excel. I mean, you can export into like an Excel document too, or upload an Excel sheet there, but it's just like a very user-friendly, easy way to organize. So if you put together, just an example, say like on a Sunday, you set aside an hour for yourself to create content. You can put each piece of content as a line item, attach your graphic, and then there's a calendar view. So you can literally just drag and drop those pieces of content where you want them to be organized and however you want to organize your week or 2 weeks or month ahead. That's something that I use and I've used to collaborate with clients because it was just like an easy way to share a link and it's a nice visual platform. So that's one that I use. I also use a social media scheduler called Social Pilot. And that too has like a content calendar where you can add notes and stuff to it. And then also actually schedule to whatever platforms you're posting to. Monday.com is another, which is great. And I have that in place for a client right now. And I did a content calendar for them that worked easy for them. Also that's free to use. So you can leverage, you try any of those, and see what works best for you. That's what I would say. And like Marcy said, when you do schedule it, you can schedule ahead of time on LinkedIn. Um, Thankfully, they have that feature. A lot of the platforms now do. Does that help on that front? Or
Yes, great information. And thank you for the resources.
sure, no, of course. Trust me, over the years, I've tested out a ton of platforms to see what works well. Okay, Monday.com. I'm putting them in here. That's one. Airtable, which just auto-corrected to sortable. Airtable and co. Mhm. Okay. Those were the three that I mentioned. Did Monday? Yeah, that came through. Okay. Um, and then of course like Excel or Google Sheets you can use to kind of organize your content.
I'm going to
Also
drop in. We use Memcool. We really like that one a lot too.
in Canva for graphics. And chat GPT for writing prompts and content. You just want to make sure it still has, if you do use ChatGPT for things, make sure it still has like the human element, because there's so many that's like you could see it in a second that it's like, all right, that's all AI generated and it's not really authentic. But if you
And that is
do,
correct. And I want to be totally in, but ChatGPT isn't always correct either. So you really want to make sure you do your due diligence when you're putting information out there, that they're giving you the correct information.
exactly. And now they just this past week have launched their search engine feature on there. So
Yes.
definitely a game changer. But I always fact check there if I'd use anything. But what I do like to do is if I'm like stuck on an idea, I have like the paid version of that, and I'll go in and do like their voice like dialogue, so you can have a conversation with AI. So I'll be like, give me an idea of, whatever it is. I want to build out a new service offering, or what's a good niche I could focus on. Here's things that I am interested in and care about, and then it gives you a whole bunch of ideas, and you could literally go back and forth just speaking to it. So, I don't see. Oh, is it not? Oh, is it not showing, Marcy?
Taking a look. Let's see.
Let
Oh,
me know.
no, I think yep, I'm going to copy and paste here. I think it just went to
Yeah, I
um,
don't have an option.
all to the host. Yep, I
Okay.
will throw it in there right now.
Thank you for pointing that out.
I
I'm
know,
realizing
right?
panelist. Okay. I don't have an option for
For everyone,
everyone. Yeah.
I threw it in here for you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, Canva I just threw in there too. They have AI features for content as well. But I mean, just for like your graphics to do something that's sized appropriately for any of the social platforms that you're using is a great one. Um, I always like to point out, be like, and there's a free version. So it's not like any kind of commitment to get started on it. All those except for Social Pilot is paid, but it's like there's a low level tier that you can get if you're like scheduling out a lot across different platforms. Okay. Any other questions or insights on that? All right, moving along. um, so I know I've mentioned thought leadership a few times here. So companies across industries find themselves struggling to differentiate their offerings from others. So, thought leadership is a strategy that makes brands memorable and helps drive sales. With buyers facing irrelevant information overload, thought leaders can stand apart by filling the void with timely, relevant, and insightful ideas. As buyers digest and connect with your thoughts and ideas, they begin trusting you and your brand as a reliable source. This in turn makes customers think of your brand in buying situations. So, thought leadership helps you showcase the unique perspectives and expertise from within your organization and helps audiences understand why you. This is a really important, just a very important concept. um, just being able to identify yourself in your industry as somebody who is the go-to person. It all goes back to that personal branding, and if you're tied to your business, they trust you, they're more likely to do business with you as well. So example, I'll give a quick example. um Last year I'm very much into like the environment and sustainability and purpose driven businesses in general. And so I've talked a lot about sustainability and ESG and the sustainable development goals. And so on LinkedIn, I was putting out a lot of content around that. And I was invited to speak at a sustainability summit based on that content that someone found me through that. So it does you know um it is an impactful thing to do that. And it's like I said, just sharing your experience and sharing like what helps build that. So and then of course here, this quote here from Forrester: business buyers don't buy your product or service, they buy into your perspective and approach to solving their problems. So 56% of professionals stated that a business executive presence on social media positively influences their purchase decision. Maintaining an active executive presence on social has direct impact on the buyer's journey. Executive voices have an important role to play in driving holistic growth. That all it all ties back into that thought leadership. Which now, I mean, I think when this slide deck was put together by LinkedIn, they did not have thought leadership ads live yet, but they do now. So I think that would have been tied in on this point. Um, Marcy, how are we on time?
I was talking and I was muted. We're
Oh,
about at an hour. We're about at an hour, Lee'Ann. So do you have a lot more to go, or do you want to stop for some Q&A? You let us know.
yeah. Yeah, we probably should, because I don't want to go over. I know you have a day of speakers in that lined up. So
Yes, thank
I don't
you.
want to.
Nope. So I'm gonna open up. Does anyone have any questions that they want to ask Lee'Ann about LinkedIn? It doesn't even have to be about this presentation. It could be some general questions. Let us know. We'd love to answer those. And we, as in Lee'Ann.
I'm gonna skip to the very end. So a lot of the other slides were on ads and that too. So also, if I can just point out, if you guys can please scan, and there's a, this goes straight back to LinkedIn. It's a survey for today, and just share your feedback. That would be great, and I would really appreciate it.
So it's Lee'Ann Burgess for everyone who needs to put her name in. But Lee'Ann, let me ask a question. How important really is it to be on LinkedIn?
So out of all of the platforms, LinkedIn is, like, for me, it's my go-to. That is where I am the most. You have over 1 billion users on LinkedIn, active users. And when people come to LinkedIn, they're already coming there with a business mindset. So if you're looking to get more visibility and amplify your brand and connect with people, LinkedIn is the best place to be. They've been around over 20 years now, and they're, I mean, it's so valuable to be on there. I would say it's extremely important to have a presence there. Um, not just like for your personal brand, but also for your business. Um, you know, Even on the organic front or the ads, you're able to reach a specific audience you want to get in front of. And it just makes it really easy to be able to connect with people who are like-minded or people you want to work with. So that would be, that would be number one. That's, for me, I mean, definitely is.
Yeah, we agree with that. So many of the people that we interact with on a daily basis on LinkedIn are our clients and other notaries and all of kinds of good things. So it's about content. I get a lot of content that we share and we find from other people a lot of good information. So I know you might think, well, I don't need it. I'm just, an independent notary, and that's, maybe not what I really need that for what I do. And I would say, as Lee'Ann said, yes, throw yourself on there. You never know.
Mhm.
You don't have to be on there all the time or do all the things, but certainly try.
Even if
Please
you're,
make sure, if you don't, oh, sorry, Lee'Ann, I was going to say, while we're talking, if you please, this is really important for Lee'Ann LinkedIn, that you go ahead and scan this QR code and put that information in there. So really appreciate it if you would.
I was just gonna kind of piggyback on what you said with, even if you're thinking, just a notary, if you're looking at different verticals to target. So I know, like, we've talked in the past about like the focus on real estate, or commercial or legal. Maybe your goal of going on LinkedIn, not just building your personal brand, but targeting those types of firms in your area where you could get in front of them, where they're going to need those services and you can get consistent revenue from them, because they're going to need you on an ongoing basis. So if you're able to identify those challenges that certain companies are having or certain industries face, and you can create content around that, it's really just, it's super meaningful, and you will be top of mind for them when they're looking for a notary. Like right now, I mean, if I needed a notary service, like I know of a few, and we just had this. My boyfriend over the weekend needed something notarized, and it was so hard to find anybody. I'm in Long Island, but it was like, okay, where do you go other than UPS, which is closed? So it's good to be out there, because other than Marcy, I don't know anybody either. So if you're in Long Island, promote promote on LinkedIn.
Yes, promote wherever you are, right? And if you do remote online, notarize from time, we can do online. We'll say I had a lot, right? You don't know a notary, you need a notary. And who I always, where did you hear about us? How did you find us? All those sources, and I will say a little bit because, oh, hey, I saw you on Twitter, or we're friends on Facebook, or I'm connected with you on LinkedIn. you would be surprised at how many people, like maybe you're not even marketing, but you just happen to be in that circle of social media with them, and then they will give your name out to other people. So just being in those spaces sometimes is enough to get the.
It's very true. That's extremely like accurate. And then just being known, for what you do in your industry and putting that content out there, like going back to that 95/5 rule, like that always plays in my head, anything with business, because um, you know, thinking about like people aren't always in market for the majority of the time. They're not buying right now. Same with like car dealerships. If you think about how many times you see ads for specific cars, but you're not always buying a car, that sales cycle is very long, so just having that content and that like constant like cadence of content that goes out, even if it's once a week, it is something and it's being seen. So
Lee'Ann, this was such great information. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. If there are no other questions, then I'll give you a 1, 2, 3 countdown, and we're going to go ahead and wrap up for today. Thank you so much. Lee'Ann did put in the chat, and I will
share it.
Yeah. Here is her LinkedIn. So go ahead and connect with her. I'm sure she would love that. Thank you, Lee'Ann, so much for today. I can't tell you how much we appreciate you.
Anytime. Thank you again for having me. Any questions, just reach out. I'm happy to help.